I'ma dive on the floor, go try to block every shot, and I'm gonna be physical with you the whole game. You know Stu gonna be physical with you. When you think of the Pistons, you think it's just hard work and just gritty basketball. That's just the identity you gotta have when you put on that jersey.
I'm not your average breed of canine. Not a good dog, I'm bad boy for life. I set the tone, don't care about no tick. Let it be known, I get my respect. Come in the lane and see I don't bluff. If you retaliate, that's on ya. Talking pundits, I hear you're ashamed. Talking that shop, you must want this way. Tryna tell ya, if the dog palm, mess around, find out, Tryna tell ya, if the dog palm, mess around, find out, For some barbecue sauce, boy, you better cough a hill, cause I'm like that. When you're real for some barbecue sauce, boy, you better cough a hill, cause I'm like that. The dog palm, mess around, find out.
What up, though, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Downtown Deuce Show. Man, what a day. What a day, right? Woo, a lot of activity today. So, I see you guys are all in the chat. Welcome, everybody, to the show. I appreciate you guys all showing up and showing out as you always do. This is going to be a very jam-packed show, so we're going to get into as much as we possibly can. I'm going to get to as many comments as I can. If I miss your comment, repost it, put it in caps, or if you're feeling generous, super chat, y'all know what to do. So, with that out the way, today is day 2 of free agency. It's been a crazy day. And there's been a ton of activity, guys, across the league. A ton of activity, man. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about the moves that the Pistons made. And if we have time, we'll get to some moves made around the league. My apologies for the delay. Just trying to get all the information I can for you guys so we can be as thorough as possible. And we will, of course, be back in future shows to dig into this more. So let's get into it, man. First things first, right? We all know that some moves were made today, and the Pistons still have some things they need to address going forward, even more so now, right? Especially you look around the league just quickly with the moves that are being made, the free agency signings, the trades, teams move or guys moving to different teams in the same division. For example, Myles Turner. We'll start there, right? He left the Pacers to sign with the Bucks. Sign with the Bucks, man, on a 4-year, $107 million deal. And from what I heard, the reason that he signed with the Bucks, just really quickly, was because the Pacers were not offering him what he thought he deserved. I think they were offering him around $20 million, and the going rate for a guy of his caliber is about 25 at least. So they were not willing to offer that, and that's also going to change how we view a lot of these guys on our team and other teams and how they should be valued and what they should be getting going forward. So we'll get into that. The standard has changed a little bit when it comes to that. So with the Bucks, they have improved their front court with Myles Turner replacing Brook Lopez, basically a younger, better version of Brook Lopez. And the Pistons, they have to get bigger. They have to get bigger to match up with the bigger teams in the East, especially contending teams. So the Bucks did also lose Dame Lillard. He was waived. And Giannis was publicly very unhappy about that. So we're going to see how that plays out. I think they did a stretch provision over 5 years. And basically, really quickly, what the stretch provision is say you're making $100 million over 2 years. What you can do is stretch it out over 5 years. So instead of paying a guy $50 million over 2 years, a year, right, you're going to pay him $20 million. And that extra $30 million, instead of it being 50 is 20. And you can use that remaining 30 to go and get a guy like Myles Turner. And that's exactly what the Bucks did. And that is also why, like I said, Giannis was not happy with the move of Dame Lillard getting moved. He was not happy about that or getting waived. So we'll see how that plays out, man. Very, very interesting stuff. But let's go ahead and get to our Pistons, man. So let's start with Tim Hardaway Jr., right? It was just reported today that Tim Hardaway Jr. has signed a 1-year deal with the Denver Nuggets, who are all of a sudden becoming quite scary. I'm going to say it now. I think they are going to be my team to come out of the West. It's early. You got Houston. Of course, you got OKC. You got all these other teams in the West. But I think that's my team to come out of the West, with them adding the likes of Bruce Brown, adding him back to the roster where he never should have left, adding Cam Johnson, and now adding Tim Hardaway Jr. So they have a lot of depth now that they did not have last year, which is why they did not advance, in my opinion. So back to THJ, right? This comes after the Pistons used their mid-level exception to sign Caris Levert to a 2-year, $29 million deal. Right? So basically the full mid-level exception is what they gave him. So first and foremost, I want to give a shout out to Tim. I want to wish him luck. You know, he was a good player for the Pistons, solid player, and he brought a lot of leadership and stability, especially considering that we had guys like Jaden Ivey and Asar Thompson missing extensive time this year. So Tim did have a few signature games. He had a few games where he hit back-to-back threes to help the Pistons win. I think one of those games was an in-season tournament game against the Heat, I believe. But he did that twice in two separate occasions, two separate games. So he did have his moments, for sure. And it was nice to see Tim Hardaway Sr. at the games, you know, shaking his head, doing his customary head nod. Whenever Tim will make a good play, you see the replay, he's going like this. So, you know, it was nice to have them here. But he has moved on. And for him, thankfully for his sake, he has, you know, landed pretty well. So that's the news on Tim Hardaway Jr. Wishing him the best of luck. Now, let's move to Malik Beasley. There have been a lot of questions surrounding Malik Beasley, a lot of news surrounding him lately, and we got another update today. And it wasn't really the best of news for Malik Beasley. And Shams reported today, basically, that, you know, Beasley was experiencing financial issues and that he struggled to pay back a $650,000 advance this past year. So what we're going to do is pull this article up and skim through it and just kind of react to it. I have not read this article in full, so we're going to read bits and pieces of it and just kind of see what happened with that situation. So you guys can see here, this comes from mlive.com. Lawsuit alleges Malik Beasley had financial issues amid gambling investigation. So it says here that the news that Detroit Pistons guard Malik Beasley is under investigation by the U.S. District Attorney's Office for alleged gambling on the NBA has resurfaced in April lawsuit against Beasley that claims he dealt with financial issues. The suit filed by Hazan Sports Management Group seeks over $2 million in damages and legal fees for alleged breach of contract by Beasley. He goes on to say the preliminary statement says the agency elected to take a chance and make a substantial investment of time, effort, and resources in a player with known issues, including and especially financial issues, when bringing on Beasley as a client in November 2023. So it sounds like they felt they took a chance on him and it did not go well for them. It says, despite signing for an initial term of 4 years and receiving a cash advance of $650,000, the suit claims he fired Hazan Sports and breached exclusivity provisions by hiring a new marketing agent after about 15 months. Moving on, Hazan Sports attempted to collect the amount of the advance from Beasley, but saw little more than drips and drabs of sporadic payments and vague promises to repay the balance over time. Beasley signed the deal while he was a member of the Milwaukee Bucks, making a salary just over $2.7 million per year. It was during that 2023-24 season that Beasley is being investigated for alleged gambling on NBA games and prop bets. The suit claims that Hazan Sports was responsible for single-handedly resuscitating Beasley's career by getting him a 1-year deal with the Pistons in July 2024, worth a guaranteed $6 million. And it is claimed Beasley was courting other agents in late 2024-2025. A little bit more here and we'll read the rest of this. ESPN reports that on June 11th, the attorney for Hazan Sports requested an extension to allow time to work on a settlement between the parties. The settlement is directly related to the commencement of the National Basketball Association's free agency period, depending on Beasley's financial liquidity. And finally, it says, and that's been thrown into some chaos after reports came out on Sunday. Beasley is a subject of a federal gambling probe. Beasley's attorney for the gambling investigation, Steve Haney, who isn't the attorney for a record of a civil suit, said it's been ongoing for 18 months. While he's not charged with a crime, Beasley was nearing a deal to re-sign with the Pistons for 3 years. Talks have since paused. Man, that's tough. That's tough, man. It really sucks. I'm gonna just start by, it really just sucks to hear this, man. It's really unfortunate to hear this with him because he had such a great year last year. He had such a great season for this team. And I really was expecting and looking forward to him coming back and picking up where he left off. So with that, though, I know we read a lot. I know it's a mouthful. I know it doesn't look good for him. I don't want to jump to any conclusions because it just came out. But putting two and two together, man, it just has to make you wonder if this was indeed related to the gambling investigation that he's currently under. It makes me think more and more that the Pistons may have also been aware of this and that they may have been trying to get in front of it. And I think that's why we were hearing the names we were hearing, for free agents popping up here and there. But, man, either way, it's just unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate for Malik Beasley. And I think at this point, it's safe to say that the Pistons are not going to bring him back, especially with the moves that they have made with their cap space and things like that. So that's pretty much the story on him. He had that contract in place, it sounds like, with the Pistons for 3 years for $42 million, which is $14 million a year. But it does not look like that is going to happen now. So best wishes for Malik Beasley, man. Hopefully everything works out in his favor, but Pistons got to move on, and that's what they decided to do. So speaking of moving on, that takes us to Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson, man. So it was just reported about an hour ago that the Pistons acquired Duncan Robinson in a sign and trade deal for 3 years, $48 million, $16 million a year. And from what I understand, the second year is partially guaranteed and the third year is non-guaranteed. So it sounds like the Pistons have given themselves a little bit of flexibility with this contract. We just got to wait and see how that plays out. But just looking at his averages. So last season, Duncan Robinson averaged 11 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists on 43, 39, 88 splits. And going out for the Pistons is Simone Fontecchio, who has 1 year remaining on his deal for, I believe it's $8 million. Y'all can fact check me on that, but I think it's $8 million he has left on his deal for 1 more year. So the Pistons did get more shooting. Duncan Robinson is a 6'7" forward with the Heat right now. And as I mentioned, he's known for his shooting ability. I think his best years were 2019, 2020, where I think 1 year he shot like 44% from three. It was crazy. He hasn't done that quite since, and he has some down years since. I think he was in the low 30s a couple years ago, but the last year or two, I think he's back up to 39% on the last 2 seasons. So that's still good, right? Still good. But here's the thing, man. I didn't think this was even going to materialize because he recently declined his player option with the Heat for $20 million. And I thought initially bringing him was not going to be a reality because, we're obviously going to try to get Beasley for 14. So an extra $6 million at least for him, I was thinking, because I thought he declined for more money, but it didn't work out that way. So from a money standpoint, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's great, but I don't know how good it is for this team as of right now, if I'm being honest with y'all. It's really early, so that could change, but I don't know. I'm not too sure. And here's why. When it comes to Duncan Robinson, he's not a great defender, right? And I'm just asking myself, what does this mean for guys like Ron Holland, who had a great rookie season, who was the backup 3 pretty much all of last season? And does this mean that Robinson is going to provide more shooting at the 3 in the backup role? Or is he going to be a starter at the 3? If you do that, you're sacrificing a lot of defense for shooting. So I understand, but I don't know if that's the direction you want to go because the Pistons are a defensive first team. I'm not sure that's a great idea. I personally, guys, like me, I wanted to roll with the guys that we have, the wings that we have, Asar and Ron. I wanted to roll with those guys and focus on getting a big, because to me, that's the biggest need right now, is having a bigger front court. We brought back, big B-ball Paul, right? Paul Reed. But I think that may be more for security as a 4th big. We didn't sign him to a big contract. I think it was 5 years for 11 or 2 years for $11 million. So like 5.5 a year. So that's not bad as a 4th big, right? But I think that's the plan with him, is more for insurance. I could be wrong, but I think and hope that that's just for insurance, because I still think we need to get bigger. But when it comes to Duncan Robinson, if the plan is to play him at the 3, like I mentioned, I don't want that, because that's going to mean it's going to cut into minutes and possibly development for guys like Asar and Iran, who I think long-term can be fits here, especially since the Pistons brought in Fred Vinson, right? Shooting coach Fred Vinson. They brought him here to work with these young guys shooting wise, So I would have rather have seen or just, kind of waited on the incremental growth and improvements from those two guys, and keep the defensive intensity, or not intensity, but the identity intact. But if the plan is to replace him with Fontecchio, I'm with that, because you guys all know, if you followed my channel for any amount of time during the season, you knew that, I really was struggling with Fontecchio because the thing that he did best, he was not doing well, right? Being a catch and shoot guy, he was not great at that. His shot betrayed him last season. He never really found his way. He tried defensively, right? He tried to do things defensively, but I don't think he did enough to have enough of an impact, especially with the shot not falling, right? He was getting caught up in trying to be a ball handler and putting the ball on the floor. He would get caught in the air and throw it away and turn, and just, it would happen too often. And I felt like he was hurting the team a little bit too much. So if the plan is to replace him there, okay, but does that mean you're going to play Duncan at the 4? If you're going to do that, now you're compromising your defense even still, because now you have an undersized starting 4 and an undersized backup 4 who doesn't play a great deal of defense or doesn't play it well. So that's why I'm not really sure about this move, because I just feel like the identity of our team is defense. And I felt like you can add a guy who can provide shooting, who can provide also more defense than what Duncan Robinson provides. So that's my only thing with that. So it remains to be seen. But for me now that we've added him, the question is now, what assets do you even have, that are left that will allow you to still get that quality 4? Because I was hoping they would use, Fontecchio, maybe another player, and maybe a pick, future pick or something like that to go ahead and get that 4. I thought we were pretty set with our wings as of right now. Even though they aren't the best shooting wings, I felt defensively they provided enough for now as they continue to get better, right, in the meantime. So I'm a little bit concerned about using our assets on another wing. I know he's a great shooter, but I just worry about how the defense might be compromised. That's the only thing that I worry about. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. So we'll see what happens, but it's absolutely clear at this point that the Pistons are not done. They can't be done, right? So I'm looking for them to make a move eventually between now and the trade deadline to get a bigger 2. So it may not happen tomorrow, not in free agency. The Pistons have used a lot of their cap space. So it looks like now the move may be to try to use whatever assets they have left to try to get a big or 2, at least one. They at least need one. So that's all I have on Duncan Robinson. I'm still not too sure about how I feel about that, but we'll see what happens. Yeah. DG says, what do you have in mind, Deuce, for a 3-and-D guy instead of Duncan? I mean, like a Dorian Finney-Smith, maybe? You know what I mean? But even then, I would just rather roll with who we have. I really would just want to rather roll with Asar Thompson and Ron Holland and just allow them to continue to get better shooting-wise. Because defensively, they're going to get better. They're going to get better defensively. That much we know for sure. They're already plus defenders, both of them. So the shooting with Fred Vincent was only going to get better. And that's why I wasn't too sure about this Duncan Robinson move. So to answer your question, DG, I feel like we didn't necessarily need to get a 3-and-D guy in free agency, because we have guys who have the potential to be able to be serviceable or at least respectable from long range. And you're getting the defense, which is the Pistons' identity. So that's how I feel about that. Let's get to Dominique, showing love out the gate, bro. My dog, I appreciate you as always, my brother. So let's see what Dominique has to say. Dominique says, took New York to game 6 with Bees and Ryan playing bad and no Ivy or Stu. Fans 1 hour into free agency. Wake up, Trajan, do something. Signs Levert, bench score. Robinson, shooter, fans. Why we sign them? Our free agency sucks. We're picking 5th next year. Shut the fuck up, please, bro. Yeah, you know what, man? There's always going to be those who feel that way. And I know you know this. I know you're probably just letting off some steam, and I appreciate you doing it in the fashion that you did it. So I appreciate you, my dog. But I agree. It's some fans are just not going to be pleased with regardless of what happens. Some fans want you to go get everybody, regardless of what the cap stipulations are, regardless of what the rules are. They want you to go get everybody, right? Without even having allowed more than 48 hours to pass. So some fans are never going to be happy. That's just the reality of it. And I think, once we get into the season and see how these guys kind of fit together, then it'll make a little bit more sense. But Dominique, as always, bro, I appreciate you, man. I'm going to give you another question if you want to ask it without the super chat if you like, just because you always show love to me, and I want to show it right back. So I appreciate you, bro. Let's keep it moving, man. Let's keep it moving. Let's move on now, guys, to Caris Levert. And guys, this is what I really wanted to get into for most of the show. Caris, I have a lot to say about Caris Levert. I've had 24 hours to think about it. Sitting around the studio, getting work in, music playing, allowing me to kind of be alone with my thoughts and kind of just think about, what this move really means for the team. And so let's get into it. So last night, guys, the Pistons officially signed Caris Levert to a 2-year, $29 million deal, as we mentioned earlier, which is the full MLE, mid-level exception, that the Pistons had available, and that does not count against their cap. And I'm gonna be honest, guys. I initially liked the Duncan Robinson move, but for different reasons. I was not too hot about this move. I was not too excited about it. But after thinking about it, it's winning me over more and more. It really is. And here's why. When you look at Malik Beasley, and by the way, you guys let me know your thoughts too. I want to know what you guys think too. But when you look at Malik Beasley, right, and you look at Tim Hardaway Jr., two guys who the Pistons have moved on from, you can argue that both of those guys may be better shooters than Levert. At least Beasley, for sure, right? But those two guys are also limited offensively. Bees and THJ are primarily shooters, especially off the catch, right? That's their bread and butter. But you're not really expecting either of those guys to create their own shot, right? Or create for others. If they don't have a shot, they're not putting the ball on the floor more times than not. They're moving it and they're relocating, right? And to some extent, that limits what you can do offensively. That's not the case with Caris Levert. That is not the case with Caris Levert. Because even though he isn't the level of shooter of a Beasley, he's not a bad shooter. And he can give you a lot more versatility on both ends of the court, offensively and defensively. And last season, just to fact check, Beasley and THJ, they shot 41 and 37% respectively from deep, right? Caris Levert also shot 37% from deep last season, just like Tim Hardaway Jr. So he's not quite the same level of a shooter as Bees. I mean, who was last year? There's only a couple guys in the league who you could say shot better on the volume that he shot it with the level of efficiencies that he shot it, right? So we're not looking for that. I wasn't looking for Bees to do that this year. What he did last year, I wasn't expecting that this year. Even though he had a great year and he's a good shooter, I was expecting him, if he came back, to be around 37, 38%. Pretty much where Levert was last year. That would have been still a good season considering what he did last year, right? But like I mentioned, he's not Caris Levert is not the same shooter that Bees is, right? But is he good enough? Is he good enough? That's the question. Is he good enough considering the other things that he can do for you? That's the question. And my answer is yes. Because he can play make. He can make plays. He can put the ball on the floor. He can create his own shot. And he's also underrated when it comes to making plays for others, right? And that, guys, is going to take a lot of pressure off of guys like Cade and Jaden, because those guys were relied upon them to initiate so much of the offense when they were both healthy, when Jaden was healthy. But now you add a guy like Caris Levert, he's going to make it hard for teams to double team him because he has the ability to get downhill. He can make plays at the rim and on the perimeter for himself and for other people and for other players, for teammates. And at 6'6", he has a 6'10" wingspan. So he's a little bit bigger and longer than both of those guys. And defensively, he gives you more than what Beasley gives you. And I would say about the same, if not more, than what THJ can give you, right? So that's my thoughts initially on Caris. We're going to come back to him, but this may have you guys wondering. I see a lot of people wondering about what this means in the loss of Dennis Schröder. I see a lot of Dennis Schröder talk. We lost him to free agency. Let's talk about him for a minute and we'll get back to Caris Levert. So Dennis Schröder, guys, has moved on, signing with the Kings for 3 years, $45 million over that span. And it looked like the Pistons were going to be able to use him in a sign and trade to bring a guy like Malik Monk back. That was a hot topic today. I thought it was going to happen myself. But the Kings cleared cap space in order to get Schröder outright. And they did that. And the Pistons, I don't think they're going to be able to participate now in that sign and trade because now the Kings don't need it, right? So Schröder was good for the Pistons last season. I want to start there. He was good for the Pistons last season. He was very, very solid. Very, very solid and serviceable for this team. And I understand why many of you may be disappointed that we could not bring him back. But when it comes to Schröder, in this situation, I think addition by subtraction, I think that applies here, guys. I really think that applies here. And I say that because he can essentially be replaced with a healthy Jaden Ivey, right? Last season, the Pistons, before Jaden got hurt, you would see them staggering Cade with Jaden at the point guard spot, right? They would start Jaden at the 2, and then they would slide him to the 1 when Cade would sit down midway through the first quarter, right? The 6 or 7 minute mark, they would slide Jaden to the 1. So now, when Cade sits down, let's say you have a Caris Levert that comes into the game. And when that happens, he can go to the 2 while Jaden's at the 1. And now Jaden has another versatile playmaker on the court with him who can do more than just knock down open rhythm shots like guys like Beasley and THJ did, right? So the Pistons actually have a chance here to set up their backcourt in a way that features 2 guards in the game who can make plays at all times, right? And they did not have that last year. It was just one. It was just one and shooters. That was pretty much it. Whether it was Cade, whether it was Jaden, whether it was Schröder, they play Schröder at times with Cade together. But what do you do when those guys both get tired? Now you're back to having no guard play, no facilitating, no playmaking, no floor general. So as good of shooters as Bees and THJ were last year, you knew they weren't creating their own shot more times than not. And they weren't facilitating for others more times than not. And we know that when Jaden went down with his injury, whenever Cade sat down, you quickly saw why the Pistons went and quickly added Dennis Schröder to this roster. I think it was a month later, tops, after Jaden went down, that Trajan decided to go get Dennis Schröder. And this is because they needed not just shooting. We always talk about shooting for Cade, but it wasn't just shooting they needed for Cade. They also needed another playmaker. Once again, a playmaker on the court with Cade. So now you've got Levert, who isn't quite the same shooter, right, as a Bees or a THJ, possibly. But you have a versatile guard in him who can knock down shots and create for others. And that's the difference. So whether it's Cade and Jaden, Jaden and Caris, Cade and Caris, you have a strong 3-guard rotation where all 3 of those guys are multidimensional offensively. And that's very, very important. Very, very important, right? And don't forget, guys, THJ was not supposed to be a starter this year. A lot of people forget that. THJ was not a projected starter day 1 of the regular season. But he started in place of Asar to begin the season, right? Because Asar was out a few months with the blood clot. I think until January, I think he was out. Or until late December, he was out and he came back. So THJ was starting at the 3, filling in for him to start. And then THJ continued starting in place of Jaden once Jaden went down and Asar started to get comfortable. And THJ did there at the 2 guard for the rest of the season. So, but he was never projected to start. And so had he not, he and Beasley were going to be the ones to run the bench unit. So I will say this, though. At this point in time, I feel very strongly about next season when it comes to Jaden Ivey. At this point, Jaden has to step into a bigger role. And he was on his way to doing that this past season. If he doesn't get hurt, it's very likely that Schröder isn't brought here. And that's the point I was making earlier. When Jaden went down, Cade was the only player who could create and initiate offense for himself and for others. That's why he was logging so many minutes. If you guys go back and check the box scores, oftentimes when Jaden went down for that month when we didn't have Schröder, you would see Cade logging 40 plus minutes, because the Pistons didn't have any other creators offensively. But even when that happened, when you saw Cade starting to wear down, he was wearing down naturally, right? You saw him run into the ground, and the Pistons saw it, and they went to get him more help. That's why they got Dennis Schröder. If Jaden doesn't get hurt, there's probably no Schröder on this roster. He's probably not even here, right? So with Jaden coming back now, he can be that secondary initiator in the starting unit and then sliding to the point guard spot when Cade sits down and running with Levert. And I like that. Having at least one of those guys on the court with Jaden will once again allow defenses not to double the same way they were doubling Cade, as we saw often in the season and against the Knicks. So with Levert, you will always keep the defense honest, or at least keep them more honest. And it won't be nearly as much doubling because you have him to be able to rely on. And that's just an option the Pistons did not have last season when they had Beasley and THJ. They were shooters, they were open, but they were not playmakers. And having another playmaker is very, very important because we had Cade as the only offensive hub. When we tried to sit Cade down, when there was no shooter and when Jaden was hurt, when it was just Cade as a primary and only facilitator and scorer, right? He was the only hub. When he would sit down, he's got to sit down at some point. When he would sit down, you would see the offense trying to get ran through Tobias Harris as a hub, Malik Beasley trying to bring the ball up court, and it just was not effective. It was not effective at all. So I think this is very, very important that they made this move, and I think he's going to be very, very big for them in that aspect because now you can have a dual threat offensively in the court for closer to 48 minutes, right? So the Pistons, they did lose some shooting in their backcourt, but they gained a lot of versatility, having multiple guys now who can do multiple things. And that's exactly why I always thought Cade and Jaden would work because neither guy is a pigeonhole into a specific role, right? They can play off each other. They can make the defense have to really think about how they want to guard them. Just much like Tyrese Halliburton and Andrew Nembhard. Same thing. Nembhard played point guard in high school, in college. Hallie is a point guard. You look at Shea and Jalen Williams with the Thunder, right? Both of those guys can play either position and create for others or themselves and play off each other. That's the same dynamic you have with Cade and Jaden. Same thing. So overall, to me, I think a guard rotation of Cade, Jaden, and Levert is an upgrade in totality over Cade, Jaden, and Beasley or Cade, Jaden, and THJ, especially since your bench lineup or projected bench lineup was limited with two guys on the floor who do a lot of the same very specific things. And if you think about it, we would have likely saw a lot more of those lineups with Beasley and THJ off the bench together because THJ, like I said, wouldn't have started. That would have been Jaden healthy, right? So that's my thought on that when it comes to shooter. I don't think it's going to hurt the Pistons as much as people may think because of how the Pistons plan to stagger Cade and Jaden Ivey. With that, guys, we have a special guest, I guess you could say. Not really special. He ain't special at all. He's not special. Let's add him to the stream. King, what's going on, bro?
What's going on, bro?
How you feeling, man?
Pretty good.
Man, so let's dive into some of this talk, man. I know there's been a lot happening, a lot going on, but I want to kind of get your initial reactions to what you have seen today, and then we can continue on. Everybody show King some love. Shout out to my dog who popped on, crashed the show today. What's going on? Holla at me.
Like I said, earlier, I mean, pretty much everybody when they woke up was probably, feeling a little bit down. We haven't really, made any moves. A lot of people want to see free agents, right? Yeah. But again, Trajan Langdon said that he wasn't going to make no, big time moves. He took his time. He seen what was out there. He tried to do a sign and trade ordeal. We all know about that with Dennis Schröder. That fell through. So now here we are with Duncan Robinson. So like I said, it's not for me. It's what you're getting out of the player. It's not the specific name of the player. Duncan Robinson is a shooter. You needed shooting because of the Beasley situation. You need the floor spacing. So like I said, the Malik Monk thing, it kind of had me a little upset earlier today. I really wanted to see that thing go through. But like I said, we got Duncan Robinson. He's a shooter. We're going to need our young rook to grow up pretty fast so he can try to contribute to in the shooting game. But one thing that, I wanted to mention was Ivy, man. Ivy was shooting 40% last season. And if you look at his last 5 to 10 games, he was shooting amazing. Yep. So if we can get a return like that from him coming back this season, that'll be big time for the Detroit Pistons. That'll be big time for them because now you have some guys who can actually attack the rim, which is the difference between a guy like Beasley and Caris Levert. You know what I'm saying? Caris Levert is a guy that can attack the basket, that can do some mid-range things. So it's a little bit different style. Yeah. I'm looking forward to see how all this falls together. I really am.
Where do you see? Okay, we were just talking about this. How do you see Duncan Robinson fitting in, bro? Because, I saw on Twitter some people saying he was going to start. I'm like, no, he should not start. Absolutely not start.
Absolutely not.
Good shoot. I understand the shooting aspect, but no. Like that really compromises your identity, I think, especially not starting unit defensively. I don't see that. Okay, so let's just say he moves to the bench. Do you see him as a backup 3? Do you see him as a backup 2? Like, where do you see him? Okay.
Fontecchio's role. That's exactly where I see him at.
Yeah.
A guy that you can bring in to help with some shooting. Mm-hmm. Hopefully he can be a little bit more consistent this season.
Yeah.
But just somebody you call in to try to space the floor a little bit. That's all you're gonna get out of him anyway.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, you're not gonna get much of anything else.
That's kind of why. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, bro.
No, that's it. That's it. That's all you're gonna get out of him.
So y'all heard what he just said. That's all you're gonna get out of him. So I felt that, and this is just me. Obviously, they know more upstairs than I do. But I felt like the assets that we gave up could have been better spent, since that's all you're getting from him. We always say, Cade needs spacing, and that is 100% true. But I don't know if getting a guy who is strictly a shooter at $16 million, using assets you could have used to go get a big, I felt like it could have been better well spent, because now what assets do you really have to go get the big that we're talking about? Fontecchio's $8 million could have been used with that. We got a couple other guys still on the roster that you may be able to package, but I feel like that was what you go all in for as far as your assets, is to secure that big spot. What do you think about that? The 4th spot?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'm just trying to find all the positive in it right now. I don't want to come and be, Debbie Downer, but like to me, I look at a player earlier who went to Denver and Valanciunas. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That didn't really cost much. They traded him straight up for player. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, man, we couldn't do nothing to try to make that happen. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Was he laser locked on Denver? But we need a big. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We're now in the East, probably the smallest team in the East when it comes to our front court. Mm-hmm. That's a problem. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Seeing Myles Turner just go over to the Bucks. You know, so and replacing Brook Lopez, man. So, like I said, it's a lot of things we could have did that we didn't do. And, like I said, I'm trying to just give it some time to see how things unfold. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I don't want to just be on here crashing out, but we need a big, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and what's available out there now, though, at the big spot is the question.
Yeah, I don't know. It's good. Well, the thing is, at this point, it's going to have to be via trade.
Yeah, via trade. Because
they've used their cap space everywhere else. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm like you. I'm trying not to, read too much into it, because it just happened. Obviously, they know what's going on better than we do. But I think I don't think we'll really know for sure. It could drag on a little bit. Because we have until the trade deadline, which is next spring. So I don't want to say it could go that far, but it could go that far. It could. We don't know. Because what other options do they have via free agency? And they're not going to rush a trade. You know what I'm saying? So that's my thought. What do you think?
Yeah. Like I said, it's the trade deadline now. That's where we are. Like I said, you've seen a day or two ago where the Pistons were the top team pretty much for guys like Bol. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, it tells you what type of market this is. And then, like I said the other day, it's look at the free agency, the free agents that we coveted, you know what I'm saying, this year. It tells you the state of this free agency. Yeah. It wasn't great. It just wasn't great. But you had opportunities to maneuver some things and get some guys here. That Malik Monk thing just would have been huge.
Bro, it would have been.
It would have been huge, man.
Yeah. It would have gave us one of the best guard rotations in the East. 4 guard rotations in the East. I think that would really just give us a lot of options offensively. And then if it doesn't work out with some guys, you got assets that you can potentially move once again at the trade deadline. So, we'll see what happens. What are your thoughts on Caris? We were talking about Caris Levert a little bit. What are your thoughts on him, with how he fits, how he may replace guys like Malik Beasley, THJ? People saying we're losing something and giving something, and adding. So, what are your thoughts on that signing?
You may be, losing as far as the volume of shots and percentage of shots from 3-point land for somebody like Beasley or Tim Hardaway Jr. But Caris Levert he has a little bit of a different dimension to his game. You know what I'm saying? He shot 37% from 3. You know what I'm saying, which is average. But but at the same time, like I said, he will attack the basket. You know, he will try to put some pressure on your front court. You know, he is going to attack. He is going to use the mid-range game. He'll come around some screens if you have to. You know, this is a player that you know, Bickerstaff, you know, should be a little bit familiar with. So, you know, like I said, it's, you know, just to think about that and, you know, to wonder if he had any influence of bringing him here is something that I do want to find out because, like I said, he has a little bit of experience with him and I'm probably sure he knows how to use them. So there is a positive to it. It's just not all negative. I know it's not a sexy name. I remember we got Tobias. It wasn't a sexy name. You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
And Bickerstaff changed that. You know what I'm saying? He got the best out of Tobias. So I'm going to give Bickerstaff a chance to be the great head coach that he is and try to get the best out of these guys.
So let's talk about Caris, his stats from last season. So last season, he averaged 12 points, 3 boards, 3 assists on 46, 37, 71 splits in 27 minutes. So to your credit, like, and I was saying this earlier, he's not the shooter of a bees. Right. No. We understand that. But he shot the same percentage as THJ last year.
Right.
So it's not like he's just a terrible shooter. It's not like you're just giving up one thing for another thing. Like he's giving you a more well-rounded game. And I think that suits the team as a whole better, just having more options on the floor at one time. And I want to make a correction from last show, because last show, I gotta correct this. Last show I talked about Levert's injury history and his availability. But after looking at his numbers again, I saw that he's actually been pretty healthy the last 3 years. I think last year he played 64 between Cleveland and Atlanta. And before that, he played 68. And before that, 74. So I want to make that clear because I did say last episode that I was a little bit concerned about his availability. But after going back and checking after a few comments I saw in the last video, you guys are right. He's been more healthy than I thought and available than I thought. So that's a plus too, because we know last season the Pistons, outside of 1 or 2 guys and freak injuries and things like that, they were pretty healthy. And they had guys who played and wanted to play. So I like that. He's been healthy. And I think that bodes well for him as far as him being able to be impactful. What do you think about that? Yeah,
kind of, you know, it's something that we've seen with guys over time, especially with injury history. He kind of changed his game up a little bit to where he's a little bit more, I would say he has a little bit more of a laid back, comfortable type of game. You know, when he first came into the league, you know, wild child, just energy, trying to get to the basket and doo-doo's bad. That's the type of player he was. That guy out of Michigan that was drafted.
Right.
Now it's more like, you know, we're coming around some screens, nice and easy work. You know what I'm saying? Top of the 3, you know, corner shots. It's more simple. It's a little bit easier to stay healthy when you play like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Not saying that it's a bad thing that he's a lazy player. He just matured his game to the level to where he can take care of his body and stay out there on the court, be available. So like I said, that'll be important for the Detroit Pistons to have these guys available, because that was one of our biggest issues going into late last year. You know, missing guys, man. So
I like what Devon said here too. Levert is a THJ with size and playmaking, and that's the difference. He just gives you more than just shooting. Not quite the shooter, but gives you much more playmaking. You know, THJ, he's a guy that likes to move without the basketball and get open, and then he's a catch and shoot guy. So, you know, that was one of the things that limits your offense, is that you didn't have another ball handler out there with a Cade, and that's why he would get double teamed so much, because you had nobody else who was there to really make a play out of that if the shot isn't there. You know what I mean? So, I think it's really important that we made this move. I think he's going to surprise people, bro. And I really think that his style of play, you hit on it a little bit, but his style of play, I think it fits the Pistons. I think it fits because just watching film, right? This dude loves to get out on the break. He loves to get out in transition. Whenever I was watching, I would see a turnover get created, whether it's him or somebody else. Bro, he's sprinting down the court. Like he's running a 40-yard dash. Like he's sprinting down the court, trying to find the opportunity whenever possible to get an easy layup, dunk, or 3-ball. And in the half court, like you mentioned, he can play on, he can play off the ball. He's really good cutter. Really good finisher, which, you know, Tim Hardaway did that too. He's a good cutter, but he's a good finisher at the rim, is Caris Levert. And he can also handle the ball for you. He can get his own shot for you when he needs to. And watching him with the Cavs, who have a similar backcourt as the Pistons do as far as having 2 multi-dimensional guards, he played really well with both Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. He was able to play off of both of those guys. So that showed me he has an ability to kind of get in where he fits in, to be able to adapt to whoever is on the court with him and kind of like plug the holes that are there, and he kind of just adds into the team, kind of lifts their floor and makes him a better product and makes him run better as a team on the offensive end.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, when you look at a Duncan Robinson, I don't think I need to introduce him to the Pistons fans. I'm probably sure y'all remember some of those games where he shot the lights out and destroyed us.
Facts. Facts.
Especially with buzzer beaters and everything else. So, like I said, you should be familiar with both of these guys. I mean, this is Michigan, right?
Right.
So,
The Michigan Pistons.
Right. we know what we getting out of these dudes, man. I did want to bring something up, man, and it's obviously another hot topic. Sophie Cunningham, man.
Okay.
Yeah. What she said about the shot. I mean, about Detroit.
Oh man. I saw it briefly. You can brief everybody else who missed it. Like I saw it in passing. I didn't get a chance to really break it down. What was said? Give us the context. Give us the backdrop on what happened and what was said about Detroit.
So they were interviewing Sophie and they were asking her what she thought about the league expanding and things like that. And man, she just basically said, there are so many better opportunities like Miami and this place and that place. And at the end of the statement, she says, I don't know how many people are going to be happy about playing in Detroit and Cincinnati. She didn't even say Cleveland, how disrespectful she is.
Wow.
She said Cincinnati. And, I'm like, man, all of the support that everybody was giving this young lady, what I'm saying, playing with the Fever. And now you see who she really is. You know what I'm saying? You see who she really is and what she think about your city. Detroit is one of the largest and one of the best sports cities in the entire country.
Come on, man.
In the entire country. We're talking about the Shock, who won 3 championships and
in
also
6 years
broke records for attendance.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
We support our WNBA team, unlike some of the places where y'all playing.
Facts.
And then that's what you get on. That's what's called being socially unaware, and that's what she is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It would be for a player like her to come here, it would be such a culture shock.
Oh my God. She wouldn't know what to do, bro.
Yeah, it was embarrassing, man. She embarrassed herself, and now she got to deal with it, man, because people are after her right now.
They should be. Yeah, man, talking like that. Like, she's probably never even been here before. You know what I'm saying? She's probably never stepped foot in the state of Michigan ever. So, just speaking ignorantly, don't really know about it. Sometimes it's better. Some things are better left unsaid. And I think that's one of those things. So, yeah, Dominique said you was wilding on Twitter talking about Sophie. I didn't see what you said.
I don't want to say it on here. But
it was like that, huh?
It was a good joke. You know what I'm saying?
You was crashing out.
Yeah, I wasn't crashing out. It was just a good joke.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people agree with it because it got a lot of likes too. I took it down though. I I didn't want to be too mean.
Man, you better stand on that.
Listen, I said she looked like she said the N word.
Bro.
Hey, and if you think I'm lying, go look at her.
Time.
Yeah, if you think I'm lying, go look at her.
Man, I hope not, bro. That's a whole yeah. We'll
the way
see,
she was talking was the entitled type of, little mixed Karen-ish type of.
Really?
Yeah, bro. Yeah,
so,
all the ingredients.
2029, let's have them booze ready.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have them booze ready. And I know whoever's on that team in 2029 is going to be ready to go at her head.
Yeah.
I already know that. So that's going to be interesting to see. I wish it was so far away. But congrats to the Detroit. They're not shocked technically yet. They got to get that patent. They got to get that name. But it's looking like they're going to be returning to Detroit in 2029 with that name. Returning the Detroit Shock, where they never should have left. Talked about that last show. So much storied history here. Winning 3 rings in 6 years. It's ridiculous. The most overlooked dynasty in WNBA history, in my opinion. Right? Mm-hmm. You had the Comets. You had the Sparks. And you had the Shock right there.
Yeah.
Right there. So, yeah. Yeah, man. I appreciate you bringing that to the forefront. I didn't get a chance to read that personally, or to see that personally. So now I'm going to check it out for sure. And I'm going to try to find that deleted tweet. Don't ask me how, but I'm going to try to find it. So we'll see. Real quick, Markel says Katie Smith was goated. Yes, she was. At one point in time, Katie Smith was the leading scorer in history. Brian vibes for the WNBA. She was a straight bucket. Like, not just a shooter, but a scorer. She was ridiculous. So shout out to the WNBA and the Detroit Shock for coming back home. All right, man. Let's get back to the guys we're talking about. A few more things on Caris Levert, because I am really expecting him to have a big year, bro. Like, I really think he's gonna have a big year for this team. Did you know that last year he scored 1,546 points off the bench? Or the last 2 seasons, he had 1,546 points off the bench. That's 5th most during that span. So he's very capable.
That's what we need, because, like I said, one of the things about the Pistons, man, is our bench. You know what I'm saying? Our bench was able to come in and do some things.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And you got to have that in order to win, especially in the East, because we just saw that, you know what I'm saying, going all the way up into the finals. Yeah. So you got to have that depth coming off the bench, and guys got to be able to put the ball in the basket, man. And I think we got the right guys to do that, especially with the ability to stagger, Ivy and Cade along with some of that second unit time. I think it's going to be huge for us.
It is.
It's going to be huge.
Life with Chris, shout out to you, bro. Says, speaking to what she said, how do we get that negative narrative off the city to make players want to come here? I don't think it's going to carry over.
No.
Because most people know.
Yeah.
Most people know. I'm sure a lot of WNBA players are kind of like cringy when she said that. Like, even if you feel that way, come on, bro. What are you doing saying that? So I don't think it's going to have any impact. I think if anything, it's going to change the narrative on how she's perceived more than how Detroit is perceived.
She's like that girl that lives in Beverly Hills that never been outside of Beverly Hills.
Right.
So that's just her. She's individual, when it comes to that type of thing. It's a pretty good amount of WNBA players that know the history of the shot. You know what I'm saying? They grew up watching it. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, we'll be fine, man. We won't have issues getting talent here. But the question is, who do we bring in as coach and GM?
Right. So I know you mentioned Cheryl Swoops earlier to go along with Neil Ivy. Shout out to Neil and Jaden and Javen, all of our fam over there. I want to see the other Cheryl though. I want to see Cheryl Ford. Yeah. I want to see her. I think I mentioned it before, but we collabed in an IG post about a year ago. And she was like, I can coach. And so I definitely think she would be, as far as a mentality and a culture standpoint, I think she'd be great for this team. So we'll see. Got another comment, super chat from Will. Appreciate you, Will. Shout out to you. Sophie he said, shut the freak up. What's up, King and Deuce? Good pickups. Let's go Pistons and Tigers. William, I agree. If you have a question, William, it's kind of our rule here. If you send a super chat and it's a statement, you have the ability to actually ask a question to go along with that. So I appreciate your support as always. And Will, if you have a question, throw it in here, bro. No super chat needed. Appreciate you. Okay, so you mentioned Coach Bickerstaff, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned the history with the guy that we added with Caris Levert. And one thing that we know about JP Bickerstaff is he excels at putting players in the best position to be successful based on their game. Based on the strengths, based on the weaknesses. And going into the last season, he knew that Beasley was at his best when he's moving and catching and shooting. And, that's same with TSJ. He knew those things. Those guys aren't creators, right? And coach had them playing their role at their best to make them successful. And he did that without even having coached them in the past. So, like you mentioned, guess who Caris Levert played for the last 3 seasons before getting traded to the Hawks this past year? I wonder who that was. Who might that be? That was Coach JB and his bigger staff with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, like you said, you hit it on the head, bro. He knows what he has in that guy.
Yeah.
He's very familiar with this game. He knows how to get the best out of him, and he proved it when he was there. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he was actually Coach Bickerstaff, part of that, whether he spearheaded it, put it in Trajan's ear, or at least pushed for the Pistons to bring him here. I wouldn't be surprised because he knows who he's getting. He knows the player he's getting. He knows how he would fit in the system. He knows that he would be able to adapt to a system quickly by having played for him. So I think all those things, like when I hear things like that, I kind of relent I kind of concede. Like, okay, all right, you coached him, so you know what you're getting, and you know what you want for your team.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, man. Like I said, that is a very key thing. Familiarity with somebody is huge. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to the head coaching department, like I said, you got players, you know their tendencies, you know how they fit. You don't have to try to figure things out. When you switching teams and switching players onto your team, that helps out a lot because you're taking chemistry away, but at the same time, you're bringing in some familiar chemistry to what you already know. So that may move things along a little bit faster as far as them getting used to being out there on the court. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, it's always good to bring a player that you're familiar with. And I'm probably sure that JB has some influence on some of the things that happen. So absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and just think about, like, for all the fans who are disappointed or underwhelmed, let's not have a short memory. Just think about how frustrated we were this time last year. Just 1 year ago, bro, we were coming off a historic losing season, no coach, just had a new GM, and Trace had just gotten here. And our big splashes were what? Bees, THJ, and Tobias Harris. And people were losing their minds, especially coming off of what happened last season. They want to see a big splash. And at the time, I remember how upset a lot of fans were. But look how it worked out. Look how all those guys exceeded all expectations. Because why? Because coach put them in position to be successful again. And he did it with players that he had not coached before. So if he can get the best out of those guys, why wouldn't he be able to do that with Caris Levert, who played good basketball for him and understands what he likes to do? How many players on his team last season did we see, bro, have career seasons, or even if not career seasons, resurgent bounce back seasons? You can go up and down the list. Cade, career year, All NBA, All Star, right? Got the $40 million bump because he made All NBA. Shout out to you, right? Jaden, on his way to a career year. Asar, showing what he can be and what his ceiling can be, making strides. Tobias, career year defensively. Like, nobody saw this from Tobias ever, anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Jalen Duren, career year. Slow start, career year. Mm-hmm. Beasley, career year. Like, all these guys up and down the roster, save for me, one or two guys, had one of the better seasons, if not best season, under Bickerstaff. So there's no reason to think that Caris Levert is not going to follow suit and have a great season under Coach Bickerstaff. It just makes sense to me that he would bring him here, considering his skill set and his familiarity. It just makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So, like I said, however we did it, a lot of people was like, why we use the MLE on him and all of this, whatever, all the politics. Hey, it ain't my money. I don't care. It's Langdon's job. He gets paid, the millions to do it. And we're just going to hold him to that. You know what I'm saying? All of the logistics and everything else. I'm not even going to get into that right now. Yeah. I'm going to trust what we did for right now. And hopefully, we can come out to the season and have a decent start. And get some boxes checked as far as how healthy Ivy is going to be coming back and, what type of production he's going to get. That's the biggest thing, and what you're going to get out of guys like Bobby Clinton. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And he step up and be that other four, that we need. Yeah. So those type of things, I want those questions answered in the first part of the season. And then if we need to make a few more moves during the trade deadline, so be it. Yeah. I agree with that. The last thing that sold me, or that is selling me, I'm not 100% there yet, but I'm getting closer and closer to that point when it comes to this particular signing, is just listening to those around him and what they had to say about him. Yeah. I think that's how you can really learn about a player too. I got two quotes. They're really short. The first one is from Coach, right? When he was coaching him, one thing he said about Caris Levert is that he is really good at understanding what we want to do. And he said he's sacrificing to create for others, sacrificing his offense to create for others. And I think he's doing a great job of that. So the selfless attitude that he displayed, I think that's important because that's how the Pistons like to play, moving the ball, things like that. And then also Evan Mobley, who was his teammate for a few years when Evan first came into the league, had this to say when asked about Levert's playmaking. He said, he just makes the right play over and over again. Anytime he's seen a guy open, he passes it and guys are knocking it down. If guys aren't open, he scores continuously, making the right plays over and over again. I mean,
For all y'all saying that he was washed and this and that, I mean, it don't sound like it. Yeah. And from what I saw, it don't look like it. So I think he's going to surprise a lot of people this season, bro. What you got? Hey, y'all, King is going to miss Simone. You know what's crazy? To start the season, I was the one all over him, bro. Like, you was like, all right, bro, it's early in the season. Chill, relax, you know, whatever. I was just it seemed like every post-game show, bro, I was going at him and like, I wasn't even trying to. It was just like, bro. It was so many times it was just like, bro. It was so many times at LCA when the Pistons are on the run and they got the momentum and he's got the ball. And he would miss a wide open three when they're ready to explode, timeout of the team, or he would try to dribble in traffic and just stifle the momentum. Yeah. It happened so often. And that's why, like, I was on him so often early because he was just hurting the team a lot. And you were the one like, you know, let's give it a little time. But then, like, come January, February, you was on my train.
Yeah, man. It's to the point where, you know, I'm watching the game and, you know, my wife will look over and be like, hey, your phone went off. I'm like, that's just Deuce typing in Fontecchio. You done did something.
Every game, it seemed like, who was your guy? Because you were texting me about somebody and I was texting you about somebody. I can't even remember who it was for you.
I can't even remember who it was.
I can't even remember. But at this point, it don't even matter because they probably got better as the year went on, like everybody else on the team team did. But that's tough, man. So, like, so do you have like I know it's off top, but how do you kind of see the rotation kind of playing out? We know we got the starters. We got Cade, we got Jaden, we got Asar, got Tobias as of right now, and we got JD. As far as the bench, how do you see that kind of playing out as far as the depth chart, or not even the depth chart, but as far as the rotations, whatever? Yeah.
Caris is definitely going to be the ball handler. Caris, Duncan, Ron.
Yeah.
The question mark is the 4.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? That's the question mark is the 4, man, because, yeah, that's the biggest question because we know Stu is the backup. So, the 4 is the question.
The way we're currently constructed as of right now, right? Now that we've made these moves in the cap space, I don't know how much we have left. You guys can check. I know it's a lot going on, but you guys can check there. I don't know how much we have left. But let's just say we don't have that much left to make any needle moving moves as far as cap space. Are you comfortable going into the season day one with Tobias as your starting 4?
Yeah, I am. And if I have to, hey, Bobby gonna have to be the backup 4. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? If they feel like he can step in and do it, because you got to have somebody. I mean, Bobby can be the backup 4.
I think so too.
As I said, Summer League just got that much more important.
Yeah, and I want to give Tobias credit because he did play well. Last year, especially the second half of the season, going against a lot bigger guys. But I don't want my 4 having to go against a bigger guy every night. I don't want any of my guys having to go against a bigger guy every night.
In the East, that's exactly what we're gonna have to do.
Yes.
That's why I said I don't know, man. If the Pistons, I don't know. We got to get another big. But you look at guys like Sass and them, those guys are gonna be out the rotation.
I was gonna ask you about that. What's your pulse? What's your pulse on Sass as of right now? Because now our guard situation has been very much solidified at this point, especially getting Chaz Lanier. Shout out to Chaz
Lanier, because you probably gonna try to find some minutes for him too. So I think Sass is he's the odd man out.
Yeah, I think so. Unfortunately, I think so. Unfortunately too, because he's a very talented player, but he's a very good one-on-one player.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like schoolyard, ain't nobody trying to face him. Like, cause he can just get buckets on buckets on buckets, but he's having trouble. It seems like really adapting to the free-flowing, ball-moving, player movement action that the Pistons do here. We've seen, they tried him at point guard at times, and he had moments, but he also had moments. You know what I mean? So I feel if he was better equipped to play the point guard spot more consistently and under control, I think he may have had a bigger role. But because he hasn't done that, and because he's not the biggest guard in the world already, because think about it, we're suddenly big now as far as our backcourt. You know, we got Cade at 6'6", Jaden at 6'4", 6'5", Caris Levert 6'6", so that's an advantage. That's an advantage. So unfortunately for him, I don't think he's going to have a role. I don't know if he's going to get moved, but because he's only making I think $2 million a year. So he's not even hampering us or anything, but I just don't know if there's going to be a role for him. And honestly, bro, at this point, this is going to be year 3 for him? I would rather see him get an opportunity somewhere else for his sake. Not even Pistons wise.
Go to a young rebuilding team, give him an opportunity, man.
Yeah, give him a
Like I
chance.
said, it's him playing a couple minutes here and there, man. That's not nothing. You
Yeah.
need to go somewhere where he can actually play.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's not from the Pistons standpoint I'm talking about, because he's not really hurting the team as far as our cap. It's just he's just sitting on the bench. He's just sitting there, and I think he probably will be more even this year because of the additions we made to our backcourt. So, yeah, it's unfortunate for him. Hopefully he can carve out a role somewhere else. That's kind of why I would like to see him, if the Pistons intend to do it, move him for our sake, obviously, but also just to give him a chance, man. Give him a chance to go somewhere else. Give him a chance to go and make mistakes on a team that's not trying to win right now, or even on a team that's trying to win right now. Just give him an opportunity to be able to get some minutes and get a chance to be able to develop. That's what I want to see for him.
Yeah. Like I said, we just see what Trajan decide to do, man. And
question: do you feel like, as of right now, it's not over, we just started free agency, do you feel like this team right now is better or worse than the team that played their last game in Game 6 against the Knicks in the playoffs last year? No right or wrong answer. Just in chat, let us know too. Do you think the Pistons today are better than they were at the end of last season when they were in the playoffs?
What the measuring scale is Beasley. I think we're somewhere close to in the middle, somewhere around the same.
Okay.
Because, like I say, you losing Beasley, which is big time shooting, but you also adding some guys who can one guy who can shoot, and another guy that has a different dimension to him.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're just a slight tad bit better because of that.
Okay.
And
yeah, it looks like
you obviously gonna have Ivy them back. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, better.
Looks like everybody here agrees with you, bro. I'm seeing a lot of yeses. Now, of course, there is no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious what you guys think, because we got to see it first.
Right.
We got a lot of moving pieces now. Guys that we lost, guys that came in. Go ahead.
On paper,
yeah.
Looks like we're slightly better.
I want to say this too, because this is an interesting point from Brad B. Just because of experience, we always talk about King developing the young core, the young core, seeing growth from the young core. I heard people saying our free agents additions, at least two of them this offseason, are going to be Jaden Ivey and Isaiah Stewart, as far as getting them guys back. So I like this comment, because I think that we're going to see. I know we're excited about the new additions and how they fit and the bigger names, things like that, Duncan Robinson. But let's not sleep on the growth of this young team. You know what I mean? Let's not sleep on how they're in the gym, probably right now, working on the games, working together as to how they can get better. And they've had the experience of being in the playoffs last year, so they have that under their belt. So I think come around April of next year, they'll be better equipped to perform in the playoffs. That's just my thought, just my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I totally agree. Like I said, and who's to know, we may still do something. So
yeah, right. It's gonna be fun to see, man. I got a few comments in here that I see talking about Asar. If Asar makes his jump shot respectable, look out. Yeah, absolutely. Him and Ron. Like, I'm really hoping that those two guys are able to develop their jump shot. Not even the three ball, just working their way out. We saw Ron, I posted the other day, Ron getting some work in the mid-range. I like that. You talked about that with Isaiah Stewart a couple years ago. Like, bro, just work your way out. Right. Instead of jumping to the three-point line. So I think just starting there, we saw start doing that a little bit. Get into that little fadeaway jumper that he likes in the lane. And it's good to see that Ron is doing the same thing, trying to work their way out to the three-point line. So I think those two being able to expand their game a little bit. I saw somebody say in the chat that they're calling for Ron, and you can call yourself out, whoever it was. They're calling for Ron. They think he's going to shoot 35% next year from three. I don't know about that. That's a big jump. But to Ron's credit, a lot of his percentage last year was affected by how poorly he shot from three to start the season. Second half of the season, he had a lot of offers. Not a lot, but he had a few offers, like 0 for 4, 0 for 3, 0 for 5. But later on in the season, he was 2 for 5, 3 for 5. So I think he's going to be an improved shooter. If he can get to 35% next year, man, I mean, are we talking about a starter at the three? I'm just saying, like, I really think whoever is able to show that growth quicker may have the advantage, bro, because we know Cade needs shooting and we know that we need defense.
Right.
We know they both have the defense. Now, who can provide the shooting? I think it may come down to that. I could be wrong, right? I may get hammered for that, but I really think it's gonna come down to that, bro. When it comes, and it may be fluid. It may be fluid. We don't know, but I think it's gonna come down to that as far as who gets that nod. But if they could both get to close to 30% at least this coming season, that's gonna take the Pistons a long way, bro.
Right.
It's gonna take them a long way. So we'll see, man. We gotta wait and see what happens. But that's all I got, man. Anything else you want to add on there, bro?
No, I'm solid.
So look, guys, we are going to end it there, man. We are going to keep you guys updated with anything else that happens. This has been a crazy day, man. Crazy day with news and everything that's going on. So wanted to get you guys all the information that we had. But yeah, so to recap, for anybody who missed the beginning of the show, the Pistons have moved on from Tim Hardaway Jr. They moved on from Malik Beasley, Dennis Schröder, and Simone Fontecchio. And the new additions as of right now are Caris, Levert, and Duncan Robinson. And of course, they brought back Paul Reed on a 2-year, $11 million deal. So as I mentioned, the Pistons still have some work to do, right, to bolster their roster. And after these free agent moves, I would imagine they are now looking to pivot to the trade market to upgrade their front court. So that's the hope. So now, like King said, we got to wait and see. So that is a wrap, guys, for this episode. What do you guys think of all the moves that have been made so far? Make sure you guys talk to us in the comments and let us know. Hope everybody has a great night. We appreciate you guys always showing love as usual, man. So we will talk to you guys soon when we have more updates. And y'all already know, man. Detroit versus everybody.
And when you knock me down, I'm getting back up. Cause when I step on the floor, you know your time's up. I'm on my way up and I'm not gonna stop. We headed straight to the top in the low. I gotta face it, I got no time.